True wealth doesn't come from constant motion but from deliberate restraint. A man who tries to get rich while being watched turns every step into an invitation for interference, envy, and sabotage. Machiavelli understood that power grows only when no one is paying attention, and money follows the same rule. Anything noticed too early is destroyed before it matures. The most common mistake of the modern man is believing he must announce his ambition to validate it. He confuses movement with progress and external opinions with identity. This childish impulse to be acknowledged creates exposure, and exposure creates fragility. Anyone who wants wealth without resistance must abandon the need to be seen before becoming solid. Society looks at other people's money with hostility rather than interest. When someone shows signs of rising, it triggers a sense of imbalance in others, reminding them of what they lack and failed to build. That's when the hands that pull you downward appear: dependent relatives, jealous colleagues, threatened superiors, opportunistic partners. Silent wealth prevents this gathering of predators. Machiavelli didn't write about finance, but he wrote about perception. And perception is the foundation of economic power. A man who moves resources quietly, invests without drawing attention, and builds without an audience creates territory no one can reach. He explains nothing, justifies nothing, proves nothing. His strength lies in being underestimated, because the underestimated advance without obstruction. A man who flaunts his ambition creates expectations he cannot control. He invites fragile alliances, empty promises, and partnerships that drain more than they give. Wealth revealed too soon attracts parasites disguised as allies, using proximity to feed off your time, energy, and focus. Silence, on the other hand, filters out opportunists and leaves only what is useful. Real ascent begins when a man accepts that no one needs to witness his process. He works on plans he doesn't share, develops skills he doesn't mention, and builds discipline he doesn't display. There is no glory in this, only precision. And precision is what creates consistent results, while others waste themselves seeking recognition. The darker path to wealth is simple: disappear while you grow. It is not extreme isolation, but calculated presence. The man who appears rarely controls the narrative. The one who appears too often becomes dependent on the validation he receives. Strategic invisibility doesn't hide your life, it hides your progress. The difference between the common man and the inevitable man lies in how they handle being observed. The first wants to be seen, the second wants to be unreachable. Silent wealth is not modesty but method. It allows a man to protect himself while he builds, and to strike only when he holds real advantage. In the end, the question is not, how do you get rich? But how do you grow without creating friction? The answer doesn't change. Control the information others have about you. Everything else is simply the consequence of what no one saw happen. A man who tries to become wealthy in front of everyone exposes his hand before the first move. Machiavelli understood that any form of power, political, social, or financial, must grow away from public attention, because anything noticed too early is attacked, questioned, or drained by external interests. The shadows are not cowardice. They are the fertile ground where power matures without being sabotaged by the expectations of others. The greatest naivety of the modern man is believing that sharing his plans generates support. In reality, it generates comparison, judgment, and interference. When you reveal your path, you give others the chance to criticize it, imitate it, or block it. Silent growth eliminates that possibility, creating a bubble of autonomy where only you understand the rhythm, the reach, and the destination of your steps. The shadows do not imply a lack of action, but a lack of noise. While others seek attention to justify their progress, the strategic man operates in what cannot be seen: direct negotiations, studies no one tracks, financial moves that remain unspoken. He reduces the number of people who know his life to the point where no attack is possible, because no information exists to be used against him. Silent accumulation also protects your energy. When a man talks too much, he becomes hostage to the reactions he receives. Every external opinion shifts his focus. Every criticism creates hesitation, and every compliment brings complacency. The shadows preserve the only resource that truly matters at the beginning of an ascent: absolute attention on your own strategy, without emotional interference that distorts the path. The Machiavellian logic is simple: the less others know about you, the harder it is for them to predict your next moves. Predictability is true weakness. Once you expose your goals, others understand your direction and can position themselves to block, copy, or exploit your intentions. In the dark, no one knows if you are standing still, retreating, or advancing, and that uncertainty becomes your advantage. A man who accumulates in the shadows has nothing to prove through external gestures. He measures his progress by internal results, not by the applause of others. This silent independence generates a type of strength that cannot be imitated, because it comes from personal discipline rather than a need for recognition. This is what turns wealth into power, and power into stability. The shadows also prevent the mediocrity of others from interfering with your trajectory. Common people react with hostility to progress they cannot understand. They try to discredit what they cannot reach. Strategic invisibility removes this barrier, allowing you to advance while others are still stuck debating their own limitations. You grow outside their radar, and when they finally notice, it is already too late. Accumulating in the shadows is not just about hiding what you do, it is about eliminating the impulse to seek approval for who you intend to become. Quiet wealth is built on introspection, patience, and emotional control. When you become a man who no longer needs to announce his steps, your path becomes impenetrable. In the end, the invisible always goes further than the exposed, because no one tries to stop what they cannot perceive. Vanity is the oldest trap of power. A man who rushes to display his achievements unknowingly exposes his own emptiness. Machiavelli observed that those who seek admiration too early surrender their authority before they even possess it. In the financial realm, the principle is the same. Anyone who flaunts the little they have exposes their fragility and invites the world to test them. Showing off is not a sign of wealth, but of insecurity. When a man needs to prove his progress, he reveals that he still depends on external validation to justify his worth. This childish impulse creates unnecessary exposure, making his rise vulnerable to judgment and envy. Displaying oneself does not attract respect. It attracts competitors, opportunists, and silent saboteurs who want what you appear to possess. The psychology behind showing off is simple. The more a man talks, the more he reduces the mystery that protects him. Silence creates distance, and distance creates authority. When you reveal every detail of your financial life, your trajectory loses its strategic weight and becomes entertainment for others. Observers do not understand the cost of your discipline, but they will see an opportunity to interfere, criticize, or benefit from it. Financial vanity also makes you predictable. A predictable man is easy to manipulate because his motivations are obvious and his pressure points are exposed. If what you seek is admiration, then anyone can control you by offering small doses of attention. Machiavelli knew that the vain are the easiest to dominate, because their need to be seen turns them into voluntary puppets. With money, this becomes impulsive choices and fragile alliances. Showing off does not generate real respect. It triggers a more primitive reaction, resentment. Progress announced too early offends those who have not advanced, and each of them becomes an invisible obstacle. You become a target for comparisons, comments, and sabotage that would never exist if you had kept your rise off the radar. The man who displays wealth attracts predators. The discreet man deals only with his own path. There is also an internal exhaustion created by ostentation. When a man tries to maintain an image, he shifts energy from growth to performance. He begins spending to protect an appearance instead of reinforcing his foundation. These behaviors lead to instability, because apparent wealth grows faster than real wealth. When image outweighs substance, collapse is inevitable. A disciplined man understands the value of silence and the protection it provides. By controlling the impulse to show off, you keep your vulnerabilities out of reach. No one attacks what they cannot measure. No one competes with what they cannot see. No one tries to destroy what looks irrelevant, ordinary, or distant. This is the real shield of discreet financial growth. Controlling vanity means controlling the direction of your life. When you no longer need admiration, you are free to grow without distractions. Your wealth becomes the result of strategy, not the desire to be seen. Invisibility turns into advantage, discretion into protection, and silence into authority. In the end, the man who displays nothing always carries more than he appears to, and that is what makes him impenetrable. Dependence on a single source of income turns any man into a servant of his own livelihood. Machiavelli observed that those who rely too heavily on anything outside themselves lose autonomy, and the same applies to money. Having only one financial stream means living at the mercy of forces you cannot control. But revealing multiple sources is even more dangerous. because it exposes the architecture of your power to people who should never see it. Multiplying income streams is not an act of ambition, but of self-defense. Each additional source reduces the world's ability to interfere with your fate. An employer, a client, a market, or a single skill will never hold enough power to bend your will. When you create alternatives, you build a safety zone where no isolated event can drag you into the vulnerability faced by those who depend on a single open door. Discretion, however, is the core of this rule. Showing your sources invites interference, judgment, and attempts at exploitation. Anyone who knows how you earn money also knows where to pressure you. Exposure turns each financial stream into a point of attack, and each point of attack into a threat to your stability. A man with multiple incomes who flaunts them is strong only in his own imagination. In practice, he becomes predictable and easy to manipulate. The invisibility of your sources creates a strategic advantage. No one can measure your strength. When people see only the surface, they assume you are ordinary. This underestimation is your quietest weapon. While they argue over their assumptions, you operate on fronts that cannot be tracked, accumulating capital without generating noise. True wealth does not grow where everyone looks, but where no one thinks to search. Building multiple sources also requires a colder form of discipline, the ability to develop skills without announcing progress. The weak man feels the need to talk about his achievements to reinforce his ego. The strategic man learns in silence, expands slowly, and hides his evolution until it becomes impossible to overthrow. The strength of your sources lies not only in the money they produce, but in the fact that no one knows how much they produce. The absence of noise prevents others from trying to control your time, attention, or results. By not revealing your means, you eliminate external expectations. No one will demand favors, loans, or opportunities you never promised. Secrecy here is not distrust but preservation. Most people do not want your prosperity. They want your usefulness. And once they know how you generate value, they will seek ways to connect themselves to that flow, always for their own benefit. Silent diversification also protects your ego from the most dangerous poison in progress, the illusion of stability. Those who talk too much believe they have already arrived. Those who work in silence understand that growth has no finish line. Multiple income sources are not luxury, they are survival. And keeping them hidden prevents you from being controlled by the eyes that watch, the mouths that gossip, or the hands that try to interfere. In the end, the rule is simple. A financial empire is built beneath the surface. The more complex your structure becomes, the more essential silence becomes. True wealth is not about having many open doors, but about ensuring no one knows where those doors lead. A man's strength is not in what he shows, but in what no one realizes he controls. Most men try to appear larger than they truly are, believing that perception alone creates power. In practice, this display only exposes insecurity. Machiavelli observed that the most dangerous ruler is not the one who looks imposing, but the one who is underestimated. In the financial realm, this logic becomes even stronger. Appearing small protects you. Being non-negotiable on the inside guarantees continuous progress without attracting unnecessary resistance. Being insignificant on the outside does not mean adopting a posture of weakness, but maintaining a neutral appearance. A man who blends into his environment goes unnoticed by those who are looking for competition or control. When you trigger neither alarm nor admiration, you move freely among others without becoming a target of expectations, envy, or interference. This social invisibility becomes the first shield of silent wealth building. Internal strength, however, must be rigid and unshakable. It is the cold conviction that does not bend to external pressure, does not bargain essential principles, and does not adapt itself to the tastes of others. This strength is not displayed, it is lived. It appears in the way you make decisions, organize resources, and manage your own discipline. Those who try to accommodate everyone to be liked lose more than money. They lose the ability to sustain their own path. Apparent insignificance also prevents others from testing you too early. People react to whatever they interpret as a threat, and when you show more ambition than structure, you attract adversaries eager to weaken what is not yet solid. Remaining discreet denies others the chance to read your potential. You move forward while they assume nothing is happening, and that mistaken belief becomes your quietest advantage. Internal rigidity must be paired with a calm that is not altered by outside opinions. Most people react to even the smallest criticism, and that reaction reveals vulnerability. The non-negotiable man does not react, he observes. His lack of response unsettles people because it shows he is not playing the same emotional game they are. This detachment creates psychological distance, and distance becomes authority. Being insignificant on the outside is also an ego test. The man who needs recognition fails at this principle because the need for attention places him exactly where he should not be, under the eyes of others. The man who accepts being ignored gains freedom to build without interference. He understands that being noticed too early compromises control over his own narrative, and that real respect comes from solidity, not visibility. The darkest part of this rule is that it forces you to abandon the need to prove who you are. When no one knows what you possess, no one knows how to target you. When no one understands your real value, no one attempts to exploit you. External insignificance becomes a form of social impenetrability, and it is precisely this impenetrability that allows your ascent to unfold without noise. In the end, an irrelevant appearance becomes the perfect mask. It protects you while you grow stronger, and it confuses those who try to understand your path. The truth is simple. The man who looks small on the outside becomes inevitable on the inside, and when he finally chooses to reveal his strength, it is already too late for anyone to stop him. Undisciplined ambition turns a man into a slave of his own haste. He confuses urgency with strategy and desire with capability, moving forward like someone running in the dark without measuring the ground beneath his feet. Machiavelli understood that power cannot stand without self-control, and that any achievement born from impulsiveness collapses at the first impact. Financial ascension demands the same coldness, mastering the fire within before attempting to control the world outside. Ambition without discipline makes a man predictable. He shows anxiety, talks too much, and accepts any opportunity that looks like a shortcut. This haste exposes vulnerability, allowing others to manipulate his expectations with empty promises or projects that drain his focus. When you fail to control your own hunger, someone will inevitably appear to feed it according to their interests, never yours. Mastery over ambition begins with the ability to act slowly while thinking far ahead. The strategic man is not impressed by quick gains and is not disturbed by slow results. He understands that time is a weapon, and that impatience only reveals how much you are willing to lose to accelerate what should mature naturally. Controlling ambition does not mean reducing desire, it means selecting it with precision. Financial strength grows from this containment. Money does not accumulate through impulses but through calculated decisions that do not shift with daily moods. Most people fail because they try to earn too quickly, sacrificing consistency for momentary euphoria. The disciplined man does the opposite. He trades instant gratification for silent construction that grows without noise and without unnecessary risk. His ambition is channeled, not wasted. Mastering ambition also prevents you from trading power for validation. Many men want to become wealthy to be seen, admired, or desired. This motivation turns money into an emotional tool, and therefore into a weakness. The man who seeks respect through wealth spends more energy trying to appear powerful than actually becoming powerful. The one who controls his impulses invests quietly, accumulates without witnesses, and builds an impenetrable territory. Disciplined ambition creates a mind that is difficult to manipulate. Easy offers, promises of fast profit, or invitations to questionable opportunities find no space in someone who already understands the rhythm of his own rise. Machiavelli said the prince must distrust even advantages, and this principle translates perfectly to financial strategy. Anything that seems too generous hides costs that destroy those who react before they analyze. True mastery appears when you can restrain the impulse to prove that you are progressing. Most people speed up to impress imaginary spectators. The strategic man slows down to consolidate ground. He does not try to display his advancement because he knows that haste makes him traceable, vulnerable, and emotionally exposed. Controlled ambition is what turns an ordinary ascent into an inevitable one. In the end, money does not respond to the man who desires too much, but to the one who controls his own desire. The impulse to rise quickly creates noise. The discipline to grow slowly creates power. Mastering ambition is defeating the only enemy capable of destroying your ascension before it happens, yourself. Only when the internal fire is under control can wealth grow without becoming a threat. Silent, stable, and untouchable. Most social relationships collapse the moment money enters the picture. Machiavelli understood that where interest exists, loyalty does not. There is only convenience disguised as virtue. Financial friendships create the illusion of mutual support, but behind them operates a simple truth. Those who share profits expect favors. Those who share losses demand compensation, and those who know too much about your financial structure gain power over you. Mixing emotional closeness with financial decisions turns any man into a hostage to other people's expectations. The friend who celebrates your progress today will demand access to its benefits tomorrow. He offers advice not to strengthen you, but to shape you according to his own comfort. This type of bond becomes a silent debt. Every favor creates room for a future request. Every act of generosity forms an implicit obligation, and every shared strategy exposes vulnerabilities that should never be revealed. When money starts moving inside a friendship, the bond loses its spontaneity and becomes transactional. Even if no one says it aloud, both sides start measuring behavior, comparing results, and calculating who is contributing more. This subtle contamination destroys the neutrality of the relationship and exposes the most primitive part of human nature, the instinct to balance losses and gains, even when pretending to act out of affection. A man who intends to grow in silence cannot allow this type of emotional interference in his strategic movements. Financial bonds create noise, and noise compromises judgment. By mixing friendship and money, you lose the ability to make cold decisions because you begin factoring in other people's feelings while building your own path. This makes every step dependent on the mood, approval, and validation of those who should not influence your direction. Strategic distance is not ingratitude or isolation, it is protection. Keeping your financial decisions out of your friend's reach preserves the integrity of the relationship. When no one knows where your stability comes from, no one tries to benefit from it. When no one knows your sources, no one tries to control your spending. Silence removes expectations and restores friendship to its original purpose. Uncomplicated interaction without invisible transactions. There's also the risk of silent competition. Financial success triggers inevitable comparison. No friend admits it, but one man's rise creates discomfort in another. That quiet discomfort turns into distance, irony, criticism, or attempts to minimize your achievements. Financial friendships often break when one grows too fast, not because he did anything wrong, but because he exposed the inequality that was always there. The disciplined man understands he should not share his numbers, plans, or income. What others do not know, they cannot copy. What they do not understand, they cannot sabotage. What they cannot see, they cannot claim. This secrecy does not destroy connections. It simply removes the ground where expectations would grow. And expectations are the slowest and most effective poison to any bond between men. In the end, avoiding financial friendships is avoiding unnecessary wars. Silent wealth requires clean soil, not contaminated by ties that demand explanations, justification, or participation. Every bond in excess becomes a debt, and every debt limits your ascent. The man who grows without burdens grows without being pulled back, and only the one who owes nothing can move forward without looking over his shoulder. Dependence is the weakness that exposes your position before the negotiation even begins. Machiavelli understood that anyone who shows need loses authority, because the other side senses urgency and turns it into a weapon. In finance, this dynamic is even harsher. The man who appears to need the deal has already lost. He offers too much, yields too much, talks too much, all to avoid losing the little he believes he deserves. Negotiating as someone who doesn't need the outcome is not arrogance. It is emotional control. It's the ability to remain internally stable even when the result seems decisive. Someone who carries calmness gives the impression of having alternatives, even if they are still being built. That appearance of independence creates quiet pressure on the other party, who begins to question their own value in the exchange. Power at the table belongs not to the strongest, but to the least needy. A dependent mind seeks approval, and that corrupts judgment. The man who wants to please makes invisible concessions, gives up advantages, and tries to compensate for insecurity with unnecessary generosity. He thinks he's being clever when he's actually surrendering ground. Machiavelli warned that those who seek to be loved will be used. In financial terms, being loved means being exploited by anyone who realizes you don't know how to say no. Negotiating coldly requires understanding the other person's rhythm. While the dependent man rushes, the strategic one waits. Silence creates discomfort, and that discomfort exposes the other party's urgency. When you speak little, you control the environment. When you respond slowly, you set the pace. When you maintain a neutral posture, you dismantle emotional manipulation. The man who controls the tempo controls the outcome, because he pulls the opponent out of familiar ground. Independence is not only behavioral but structural. A man with multiple income streams, financial reserves, and discipline doesn't negotiate for the next payment. He negotiates for the best agreement. Scarcity makes a man anxious. Stability makes him selective. And selection turns any negotiation into an advantage because you accept only what strengthens your position. Everything else is dismissed with the same calm that others use to beg for opportunities. A man who doesn't appear to need anything earns respect before he speaks. His posture shows he is there by choice, not by desperation. This reverses the silent hierarchy of negotiation. The other party becomes careful, trying not to lose the chance to close a deal with someone who radiates self-sufficiency. Perception of value doesn't arise from what you offer, but from what you refuse to appear dependent on. Negotiating without need also dismantles emotional manipulation. Many try to use urgency, social pressure, or empty praise to push the other side into agreement. When you don't react, the manipulation collapses. The lack of emotional response prevents the opponent from identifying your weak points, and without exposed weak points, there is no angle of attack. The cold man becomes impenetrable because he provides no vulnerable surface. In the end, negotiation reflects your relationship with dependence. Those who need too much lose too much. Those who control their own impulses choose where and how to win. A man who negotiates as if he doesn't need anything is not pretending to be strong. He is demonstrating inner command. And this command is what separates those who merely survive from those who advance. Silent, disciplined, and impossible to bend. A man who tries to grow too fast becomes predictable, unstable, and emotionally vulnerable. Machiavelli would see this mistake as a form of naivete. When someone reveals haste, he also reveals the exact point through which he can be manipulated. Slow growth is not a lack of ability but a strategic choice. It is the discipline of advancing quietly, consolidating each step like someone building a fortress stone by stone, without allowing anyone to notice the final size of the structure. Speed attracts attention, and attention attracts interference. Those who rise too quickly provoke curiosity, envy, and resistance. Others begin to track their movements, anticipate their desires, and exploit their emotional gaps. But someone who grows slowly goes unnoticed, moving like a shadow that never offers a clear point of attack. Gradual progress prevents the world from forming defenses against you, because nothing in your rhythm triggers immediate threat. Cold growth requires the ability to endure the silence of slow results. Most people give up because they believe they are not going far enough, when in reality they are building invisible roots, the ones that support the weight of the future. A strategic man knows that progress lies in repetition, not in euphoria. He understands that stability does not come from big leaps, but from continuous micro-decisions that no one sees, yet accumulate strength day after day. Inevitability is the outcome of this discipline. Once you finally become visible, there is no way to reverse your advance, because it was not built through momentary emotion, but through years of precision. Others will try to understand how you got there, but will find no simple narrative. What grows slowly has no straight line. It has layers, and layers confuse, disorient, and weaken any attempt at a direct attack. Growing slowly also protects your mind from the impulse to prove your worth. Those who seek speed want immediate recognition. Those who seek inevitability want silence, because they understand that noise destroys focus. When you no longer need to display progress, you become immune to judgment and comparison. The absence of emotional pressure brings clarity, and clarity produces decisions that are colder and more enduring. This type of growth is rarely seen, but always felt when it finally appears. Strategic slowness also expands your ability to adjust your path. A rushed man reacts too much and calculates too little. Every mistake becomes an expensive detour because he is obsessed with shortcuts. But the man who advances gradually can observe his environment clearly, identify risks before they turn into crises, and adapt without damaging his foundation. The more solid the foundation, the less external changes impact his progress. Growing slow, cold, and inevitable is not only a way to advance, it is a way to survive. The world does not fear what is explosive, it fears what is consistent. The explosive appears quickly and disappears quickly. The consistent remains. Its strength does not come from intensity, but from precision. True ascension occurs when you become impossible to ignore, not because you showed too much, but because you prepared long enough for no one to stop you. In the end, the question is simple. Do you want to grow fast, or do you want to grow permanently? The strategic man chooses the latter. He accepts time as an ally, embraces silence as a method, and uses discipline as his foundation. And when he finally emerges, he appears as something that cannot be reversed, not because he was seen, but because he became inevitable. The most effective way to gain power is to become someone others cannot predict. Machiavelli understood that a man who changes without announcing it confuses allies and disarms adversaries. In the financial realm, this silent transformation is even more precise. It is not enough to grow. You must become unrecognizable to those who knew your previous self. Invisible ascent is the kind that leaves the world with no record of the process, only the final result. A man who chooses to change visibly invites resistance. The people around him try to preserve him in his old patterns, not out of malice but convenience. His evolution threatens their emotional stability, prompting them to issue warnings, criticisms, and judgments aimed at limiting his progress. But when you change in silence, no one builds defenses. You move through each environment as someone who looks the same on the surface while internally reorganizing priorities, habits, and ambitions. Becoming unrecognizable does not mean abandoning your identity, but rebuilding it away from witnesses. With every skill acquired, every income source created, and every discipline strengthened, you distance yourself from the version the world believes it understands. What once seemed predictable becomes uncontrollable, because there is no longer a stable reference for others to anticipate your next moves. A man who cannot be read cannot be manipulated. Silent transformation is gradual. It does not depend on dramatic ruptures, but on consistent decisions that shift your internal axis. Your posture changes, your ambition sharpens, your tolerance for chaos increases. While the world watches the surface, you alter the structure beneath it. And once the structure changes, nothing that once affected you continues to have the same impact. This is the real metamorphosis, not the one people see, but the one that cannot be undone. With time, your ascent becomes too clear to be denied, yet too late to be stopped. Those who once underestimated you realize they missed their chance to create resistance. Those who tried to shape you recognize they no longer have access to the points where they once held influence. The unrecognizable man is not just stronger, he is untouchable. His silent evolution created distance, and that distance created authority. When your new version finally emerges, it does not shock by its greatness, but by its lack of explanation. People will try to reconstruct your story but will find no answers. They will search for external causes but see nothing. The power of your ascent lies exactly in that. It appears sudden, yet it was built over years of small, cold, disciplined decisions made far from any audience. The final rule is simple. Never allow the world to witness the intermediate stages of your transformation. Reveal only what is complete, solid, and impossible to reverse. Let them discover it too late. Let them try to understand and fail. Grow until your old version becomes only a memory, and your current one is so precise, so silent, and so impenetrable that no one can challenge it. In the end, only one question remains. How many still see you as the version you have already surpassed? And how many will fail to notice when you become inevitable?